You're listening to The Abi Khan Show, a podcast that inspires people to achieve what they once believed was impossible. My name's Abi Khan. I'm an actor, health and fitness coach, and it is my mission to connect with interesting people, share their stories, find out how they optimize their lives for success, and how you can do the same. I want to give today's guest a personal intro because Ivana has helped inspire my own acting career and countless others around the arts world. Ivana Chubbuck is the founder and director of the Ivana Chubbuck Studio and creator of the widely adopted Chubbuck technique. Ivana's 35 plus year career has included Academy Award winners and nominees. Some of these you might have heard of: Charlize Theron, Brad Pitt, Sylvester Stallone, Jake Gyllenhaal, Jim Carrey, Chris Pine, Emilia Clarke, Jessica Biel, Jessica Alba, Beyonce Knowles, Pink. The list just keeps going on and on and on. After Penguin Books published Ivana's book, The Power of the Actor, it became an instant worldwide success, spending weeks on the top of the Los Angeles Times top 10 bestseller list. Ivana has been honored by the Russian International Film Festival with a Lifetime Achievement Award for her contributions to the film industry. She's also been featured in numerous articles in publications such as the New York Times, People Magazine, USA Today, Paris Vogue, the London Times, GQ. The list just keeps going on and on and on. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode with the world-renowned Ivana Chubbuck. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest episode of the Abi Khan Show. Today I have a very, very exciting guest. It's someone who I have looked up to for a very, very long time. Miss Ivana Chubbuck, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me. I like to be had. What?
So, Ivana, I wanted to talk to you specifically today about you're very, very big on giving power back to people and empowering people, especially during this time. I feel that your knowledge and experience can really help benefit people take that power back, especially in this time where we do feel very, very lost with what's going on in society and the world today.
What's really interesting is I've been starting online classes, and I'm not a tech person. I'm really like be tangible and see someone in my face and be able to keep the secrets and the privacy and the intimacy of a community that I've created that's much easier to create in person. So the whole technological reality is something that I'm adapting to actually a lot better than I thought, because my first assignment in my online classes is to write a monologue, like the vagina monologues, but calling it the coronavirus monologues. And what is your experience? What is your specific experience from your point of view? What is it that you're going through this time of shutdown, this time of isolation, and so forth and so on, with different people all over the world, which is really the most interesting part. It's not just people from the U.S., people from Japan, China, from Israel, from Scandinavia, and from all over. So it's like interesting to hear people's monologues about what they're experiencing and what they're going through. A lot of these people that I know already, and I find that their monologues are focusing on the very thing that I know was an issue for them before this whole shutdown, before the coronavirus was an issue. It's just been magnified, and you were forced to kind of look at the truth of what you were struggling with that you could avoid before, that you can't avoid anymore. But everybody's issue and every monologue has its own needs. Someone dealing with trying to really figure out who they are as a person, what their purpose is, somebody else trying to find, are they worthy of love? Can they be believed in? Can they believe in themselves? I mean, I could go on and on and on. Just primal needs that human beings go through. Will I ever be loved? Will I always be alone? Well, how do I really feel about this particular person I've been obsessed with? And. So the issue is that when they wrote the monologues, I said, what is the kernel here? of what you really wanted to discuss and talk about and find solution to, because my way of working is about finding an objective that will help solve the characters' issues that are on the page, and therefore finding the human reality that is yours, the personalizations that allow you to discover change, growth, and overcoming whatever it is that your fear is. And what we've been doing is finding that if you look at where it comes from, if you look at how it was there before all this happened. So it's not fear, is not a large topic. Fear isn't, it's like happiness. It's too big of a notion. Everybody has very specific fears, and very specific fears based in childhood issues of the things that have happened to them recently based on childhood issues, which is, again, science of psychology, is that we now are forced to, through isolation and shutdown and the lack of ability to communicate and be full of shit, to be perfectly honest, because we could be full of shit when we're not in isolation, is we're kind of forced to have to really look at what our stuff is. And whatever that stuff is, where I'm an artist, and I deal with trying to face our fears through the arts, is to understand your fear. The more you understand it, the more fearless you can be. You have to really delve into what your specific fears are, why they became your fears, how they became your fears, all the specifics of like how you would write a story if you're a journalist, how, what, why, and so figuring that out for yourself, and then therefore putting it towards your character, say when you're capable of actually putting it out there and on stage and screen and television, but to actually find your way of exploring that through write a monologue, write something that says, this is what I want to express to a particular person, not to the world, because we don't need to communicate with the world. We need to communicate with very specific people. There's usually just a handful of people, if that many, that we really need to have a communication with, that we really want to find. My issues have always been, I want to make my father proud. I want to do everything that's going to make him proud. Now, he's been passed away for 26 years, but I could still use him as a substitution in terms of like my work is substitution is objective, which you're trying to solve something. Substitution is who do you want to solve it with? And my father comes up a lot for me because even though he's been passed for 26 years, everything I do, every accomplishment I make, every translation of a book that comes out, it's like, are you proud of me now? Are you proud of me now? Was this the keeper? Was this the one that made you proud? And also my daughter. My daughter's another person that it's like, I want her to see me the way I never saw my mother, who was mentally ill. And rightfully so, given her history, her childhood was very traumatic. She survived a lot of trauma, not the least of which is being emotionally and molested, abused, as a little girl. So rightfully became a very abusive and a crazy person and a hoarder, and there's all kinds of things that I really felt the need to have my father be there and feel I was worthy of protecting, because he never did, feel I was worthy of being protecting because he thought I was worthy of pride. It all connects the dots together. So my issues with my mother, I give her reason. There's a reason with my research that I've done in terms of self-research, which you have to do as an actor. You have to, as a writer, as a director. I work with writers and directors. We all have to soul search what is our vision and why. How did that vision become what we needed to say and express? And how is that specific to us and what we're trying to do? Because the more specifics that you have, the more details you have, greatness is in details. So when you ask questions, for example, you ask the questions that are going to hopefully elicit detailed answers so that you can ask a question off of that detail. And that informs your audience a lot more than some generic, oh, you shouldn't be afraid, or grow with your fear. It's like, that's a bunch of bullshit. Because the whole thing is like, I'm afraid. I can't say that I'm not. Just because I preach the gospel of know your fears so you can be fearless doesn't mean that I've accomplished fearlessness. It means I've attempted to overcome that, which is what makes a winner. A winner is a person who tries to overcome, not a person who sits in their stuff and is defeated. So I am trying. I am trying to find, what is the message here? Is it the planet trying to heal? Is it we as human beings are trying to heal within our environment that we've allowed to let technology and life moving so quickly take over our world so that we didn't have to look at our stuff? Is this nature's way of making that happen? Is this our own, thing that we did as human beings who destroyed the planet through our negligence? Or maybe this is what was supposed to happen so we could get to this place. There's so many questions that I like to ponder because that makes me think. And I think that's the best thing that we have, is that we have the ability to muse, to think, to ponder, to find solutions that, guess what, have more questions. And the more solutions you find, oh, this is what I'm supposed to learn. It's like, but I don't understand this part. So what I say a lot is, the more I know, the more I don't know.
It's almost...
What are you going to ask about that?
It sounds as if that fear itself is necessary as much as people are afraid of fear. It's almost that fear is necessary to instill some sort of growth within us.
Absolutely, because as they say in AA, you have to hit bottom to grow, right? And so you have to hit bottom, whereas fear brings you to bottom. Fear brings you to that place where you're raw. And there is no... The more afraid that you are, the more raw and authentic you are. You can't bullshit when you are in fear. You can't lie to yourself when you're in fear. It is what it is. It's palpable. And of course, some of the most interesting movies, TV shows, plays are always based in someone trying to overcome their fear of whatever. Relationship, fear of not surviving physically or emotionally, fear of a person abandoning you. It's like the basis of drama is finding your bottom, and then how you're going to grow to create a beginning, middle, and end, to be able to get to that place where you are finding some kind of crescendo where everything, the shit hits the fan, and then you find some kind of resolution, a version of resolution on the other side.
So with people that are suffering with fear and are quite unsure of how to actually overcome that, is there any specific things that you think they need to think about in order to, I guess, to change the perspective of, I'm afraid, now I'm essentially disabled, I can't move, I can't live my life? Is there anything that you think that people need to do, whether it is, if you're a writer or not, write a monologue, write your fears down so that they can become real, so you can have power over them?
Well, here's the thing. There's a thing called journaling, right? You've heard about journaling.
Yeah.
Anybody can do it. You don't have to be an actor, writer, director. You don't have to be in the arts at all to journal. I mean, lots of therapies is about journaling. Lots of thoughts of how to overcome people's malaise or their issues. I think journal. It's like, it helps you understand. I call it free flow writing, where and I have a thing I call emotional diary, where we go into an objective and then why and from whom we want something from. We do free flow writing, where we don't stop to think and we see what naturally comes up. And it starts with an objective in terms of my version of it, because we want to have the emotions and the feelings and the issues that come up in your journaling is being driven towards an accomplishment, towards doing something. Like, I'm trying to get you to love me, person's name, because, and then you continue to write and to see what comes up that allows you to take your fears, understand what they are specifically, and then attempt to go after, this is within the script format, to go after your solving your objective, getting that person to love you with knowledge of why it's been a problem, why rejection is possible, what your fears are that are going to help you win in spite of and because of what it is that you're afraid of. Because fears can be used to destabilize, but it also can be used to drive. It's a great, great fuel. It's a fuel to overcome with. Now, when I say overcome, it doesn't mean absolute overcoming. It means the attempt to try is a winner. In the original Rocky, it was a great, iconic movie because everybody remembers the end that he actually won the fight. He didn't win the fight. But how hard he tried to win that fight is what made him a winner. And that's why it became such an important movie, because most of the time when you see those kinds of movies, the person against all odds wins. But what made it iconic was the fact that he didn't win. But he tried that hard, just even getting himself in the ring in a world championship fight. That's a win, for God's sakes. It's a huge win. And I remember talking to Stallone about this because I said, was that the point of making him not win at the end? Because I started working with him on Creed, which was, again, the same kind of concept where the person doesn't win, but they take all the obstacles and are trying to overcome the fears, the abandonment, the issues of not being good enough, the possibility of failing in a huge way, of letting your father down, plus, and. And so I said, was that the intention? He said, it was absolutely the intention, which I think is really interesting to me, is that when I bring up that movie, which everybody knows all over the world, everybody remembers him as winning the fight, but he did not. That's so cool, right? And so that's the same concept of like, just try. In spite of and because of. Keep in mind that. Dynamic people are people that, in spite of, it hurts, it breaks my heart, I'm stricken, frozen with fear, but I'm also going to then use this to what do I need to accomplish? What is it what am I so afraid of? And then looking at what it is specifically, because you know what scares us the most is generalities. And the whole idea that I am trying to overcome fear by its very essence of fear, I'm going to be so struck down by that, because the general notion of that, I have nothing to latch on to. I can't latch on to something that says, this is something I could look at, because fear is too big of a notion.
So it's not really...
What am I afraid of? What do I need? What do I want to accomplish? And it could be love, it could be career, it could be looking at your own self-destructive ways. It could be, why did you pick alcohol to be your drug of choice? Because alcohol is like trying to solve fear, which is liquid courage. Cocaine, Adderall, like all the speeds are about power, trying to solve your power. You're a loser and weak, so you're trying to get your power back through amphetamines. Sex is an intimacy issue. I'm afraid of getting hurt, so I can have a sex addict is trying to solve finding love without getting hurt. All those things are solving, but it's all based in fear, that you try to find a medicine for it. But that's in terms of, you don't have to be an addict to try to, but you have to sort out what is it that you're afraid of. Well, that's not an easy answer. You're going to wake up one morning and go, aha. It's a journaling, thinking about it, write a monologue. This is what I need to express. And there'll be a nut in there. There'll be a lot of babbling, because that's, not a writer. What you're doing is journaling. So there'll be a lot of babbling, but there'll be a kernel. There'll be a kernel there that will be the thing that goes, that's the very thing. And then you journal on that kernel, because that kernel will then take you to the next place of more specifics that will allow you to keep finding more, not answers. I just hate saying the word answers, because answers is more information. The more informed I am, the more I can make more empowered decisions. Not destructive decisions, but constructive decisions. And that's what I base my technique in, is for the character. The character has to take, because the characters, by the very nature of drama, is that they've hit bottom. There's bad things going on in their lives. And how do they overcome that? To find a way to, in spite of and because of the issues that the character is dealing with, I need to overcome and find some answers so that I can find my way to be a part of the other side. It's the beginning of the journey of life. You're never going to find the full answer. There's always more. I just call it raising the bar. It's like sometimes I figure, oh, this is the answer. This is why this thing happened to me, or why this person did or said those things to me. But then that gives me a whole new question. I have to raise the bar. I go, no, I have to meet that one to figure out that. And then I figured that out, but that brings more questions that need to be answered, so I have to raise the bar again. And life is like that. Once you stop learning, you might as well give up the ship, because education is what keeps us alive.
So it's the what it sort of sounds like is that winners come from, like you said there, it's the pursuit of trying to win. You don't necessarily have to get there, but through that trying, you're going to become more power, not the ultimate power, you become more powerful, more educated, more experienced.
No, experience is not the right word. Empowered is the right word. I'm empowered by my pain as opposed to frozen by my pain. So I'm empowered to continue my journey. I'm empowered to seek more answers. I'm empowered to feel like I can, that it's possible. When I'm frozen, the fight or flight kind of thing, when I'm frozen, what happens is that nothing happens. You become numb, you shut down. So that, for all intents and purposes, is a form of spiritual death, right? So then you're stuck in that. That's where the dark thoughts come in. So we have to look at this time as because I can't say, am I dealing with this? Yeah, absolutely. I woke up this morning feeling like very giving up, got placed. I said, okay, Ivana, what do you teach? What do you? So let's look at this as what. Why did I not want to get up this morning? Why did I want to just stay in bed? Why did I want to just give in to this? Because I am trying to have to look at the part of me that is human too. And so when somebody says, well, I can't do what you do because I have all these dark thoughts, and I'm saying, like, I do too. But I allow them to be, I mourn, and then I try to learn. And then I try to use it to, in spite of and because of, try to then take it to find some version of and be informed that allows me to raise the bar and meet the bar and understand more about what I need to know, especially during this time when I have so much time. And so don't put yourself down for being human. We all are going to go through these dark places. I'm not any different than anybody else. I'm scared to death. I'm terrified. Also have every possible like cough or sore throat or anything. I'm thinking, that's it. I'm making my maker. So I did what I could in the world, and now I must give up the ship. I mean, I have those thoughts because I'm dramatic. Let's start with that. I'm in the dramatic arts, so I'm going to always go to the extreme from the minorest of moments. But I also, it's human to go to those places.
Do you think that people, especially during this time, need to look at their primal need, as you sort of say, of what does a life of fulfillment mean to me?
I think if you look at it that way, you're going to be very, very disappointed, because what does fulfillment mean? It's like happiness. What is happiness? People be in love, so being in love makes you insecure, makes you wonder if that person will ever leave you. Makes you wonder if you're good enough. Makes you wonder if this is just today and tomorrow it's going to be over. It's like love has the richness of all the colors. So there is no fulfillment. If you're looking for something that's unattainable, you are going to be sorely hurt by it. and then you're going to feel like a failure because you didn't get fulfillment, and then it spirals into a rabbit hole. So you really need to not look for Valhalla. There is no such thing as Valhalla. It's more information and more answers. More information and instills even more questions. Then those questions give me answers that instill me in more questions. Life is about constant growth. Growth doesn't happen from A to Z. It happens from A to B, then B to C, then C to D. And if you look for the big Valhalla, the Shangri-La fulfillment answer, you're going to feel like you've screwed up and that you failed, and that's going to bring you down in a very dark place. That is very hard to get out of.
So with the, essentially with the fear that people are experiencing, is there a way that we can take that fear and use it to keep making progress, to keep actually pushing towards our goals, our hopes, our dreams?
Yeah, because the thing is, I know it's really hard to sit down and do stuff, but start with writing a monologue. Start with writing what you are feeling right now, and start the process of understanding who you are, because you may find in your podcast that it's not just about people in the arts. It's about people, and I've had people tell me that the people who aren't even in the business at any shape or form, that utilizing the idea of taking pain, insecurities, and fear and using that to empower and fuel your and impassion your goal to overcome and win with is something that is just a good way to look at life. So the idea is, you got to be informed. First, you got to know what it is that's bothering you, So it's so that's what I came to find. I didn't know that this was going to come up. But with all these monologues I've been hearing from all over the world in the last week we started the online classes, I'm going oh my God, everybody has their own specific but primal reality of an issue that everybody can relate to, because of primal human needs that aren't being met from childhood issues. And now we have the opportunity through what I was doing, but everybody could be doing this, is the writing gave everybody the kernel of, oh, this is what's bothering me. And I told everybody, I said, look, the idea is all these things, they didn't just come up because of the coronavirus. They didn't just come up because you're in shutdown. This is just stuff that you were able to go slough aside and go I don't really have to deal with it, because you don't, and day to day. But when you're forced in isolation to have to deal with that stuff, what a great opportunity it is, not necessarily to sit there and write the great American play, or to film yourself doing something funny or cute or whatever, but to actually just figure out who the heck you are, so that you can, when everything gets back to the new normal, whatever that is going to be, is that you know what your place in the world is going to be, with a very defined and focused purpose. You may come to find that what it is through what you're finding out what your major issue is, that what you want to do with your life is be an architect, or what you want to do is have a farm, or what you want to do is is work in a corporation, and because you love numbers. My sister started off being a lawyer, and she found she just did not like the concepts have to do, because she's just not that person that needs to win in that sort of way, because there's a lot of things you have to kind of spin, and as a lawyer, to win a case. And so her husband was in banking, so she decided, because she didn't want to be a lawyer anymore, just to get kind of a job in the banking world. And she found she fell in love with it. Because she figured out that that's what she really, really liked, numbers. She really liked how that made her feel safe. I have a friend who was he's the only friend that I've ever kept in touch with from my high school. He was a jazz musician. He worked with Dizzy Gillespie. He was very successful. He went to Berklee School of Music. Very hard to get into, that kind of talent. But he wasn't. He found that he wasn't finding himself, he wasn't happy. So what he did is he went back to school, and he took a bunch of different classes, all different kinds of classes, and from science to journalism to literature to art history to all kinds of things to see what was the thing that was really the thing that caught his heart. And what he found was he liked nuclear physics. He's a very famous physicist who talks all over the world, and his inventions and things are like world renowned. I mean, it's just that this is a guy who was just a dude that, was a jazz musician. And so he was in the arts, but what he loves is the science, and he plays bar mitzvahs over the weekend, so he keeps his music stuff in play. But the point is that this is the opportunity that have to go to school for 4 years to figure out what you want to do. Here's where you can figure out your purpose, what you are, what you need from a very, very deep and primal level by journaling, by creating like a journal. It's like to start the prompt. I really need to find out my purpose and then see what comes up. Or a prompt that would be, I need to understand my fear because. There's different kinds of prompts, whatever it is you're trying to like figure out what's going on in terms of your question that you have, and then write 2 or 3 pages, just free flow writing with a pen. And you'll find that there'll be kernels of things, there'll be a lot of babbling, but there'll be kernels of things that will come up. Then you journal from there, and then you start to do research on it. Like you have all the time in the world to like Google stuff, to buy books on the topic, to see just like to really kind of explore the things that you didn't know. I didn't know that you knew you weren't happy, but you didn't know how to fix that or change that. But now we have all the time in the world to figure that out.
And it goes back to, I guess, questions. The more questions that you ask, the more answers that you will answer or that you're going to get, and the more questions come around, and eventually you'll get to a state where you're like, that's what I'm supposed to do.
Exactly. And then from there, you have all those new answers and questions on how to go about it and how to get into it and how to make the most of it, And I find if you really love something, success will come to you. It just does. Because you love something, you'll work more hours at it.
And you'll never give up because you're so passionate about it.
Well, the thing is, it should never be over. It should never say, I figured it out, life is over, because then you die. I mean, whether you physically are on the earth dead or you spiritually have given up, it's the same notion. And the thing is, I want to be able to wake up in the morning, there's more to understand and explore. Not to say that there aren't mornings or mid-afternoons or before I go to sleep where I go, I just want to be done. Corona, get me. I'm yours now. Take me, Corona. And it's like, but the thing, and those are real. I'm joking, but I'm not. Those are real. Those are real moments. Everybody has them. Everybody's scared to death and terrified. But we got to use our terror, understand our terror, to understand some of the answers that will give us more questions about what is our purpose on this planet. Because the planet is speaking out to us right now. This is a world pandemic. It is not Australia's. It is not America's. It's not China's. So everybody's learning something from this in their own personal journeys with people and the beauty of what I do is because I work with people from so many cultures all over the world, that I'm taking this in. And we're all going through the same thing. It's not different because of culture at all. Because the human animal is a human animal. And how we differentiate our needs, how we go after our needs are all the same. How we go after them is culture. And that's when I studied cultural anthropology in school, psychology and behavioral science, which is what I use as my the underbelly of what I do. So when I hear people's stories all over the world, I take that in as information of how to create the most powerful and dynamic story. Because I don't want to just tell a story to help people tell stories that are about victims. I always say, take the victim out. We're going to empower people with your work. I call it empowerment through the arts. Your audience will take in what you give them subliminally. And so it's our job, it's our obligation as artists. And what you're doing is, because you're talking to me today because you knew subconsciously, you knew through Anthony, whatever, the point is you knew that this was going to be something that you needed to hear for yourself and therefore your audience.
No, brilliant is that. So is there any particular way you think people go around this self-reflection period? Is there any particular tools, tactics you think they can use to ask the right questions? Or is it a matter of just asking a question and that will lead you to another random question and eventually you'll make progress?
That's why the journaling is important, because it's going to be a lot of randomness in there, but there's going to be kernels. And then it's up to you to look at that. It's really obvious what the kernels are. It's like, if we're to say there's your monologue, you write this monologue, you do it out loud, there'll be one point that will be like all of a sudden, and you're choking on it, go, oh, that's the kernel. And so when I had these people do their monologue, a lot of it was like talking about the world and saving the world and the world and the world. So, but then when they started getting into specific things that they were dealing with, all of a sudden they were choking up. And I said, okay, so where's the kernel there? The place that you felt it resonated with you. So in terms of what I can help people do, because I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm a really screwed up person. So like I'm the last person that you should be listening to in terms of like my personal advice. First things first, I work out my own shit, right? But most importantly is that if you, to use within my reality, is to write a monologue about some prompt of something you want an answer for, then you'll find as you're writing, it's something that's going to be a kernel will come up. You can read it out loud. You can do it in the privacy of you don't have to do it in front of anybody, to yourself. You'll find that there'll be something that will really pull out at you, and you will have to write more on that. And that's going to help me understand what my question is that I need to have to find that answer that's going to lead to the next question that's going to help me. It's going to be fairly random initially, but then it's going to become more and more specific. Like all education, we start off with basic math. If we're going to go into calculus, we can't go straight to calculus. We got to go first on basic math. 2 + 2 = 4. 4 + 4 = 8. Okay. Then we go into algebra. Then we're going to go into geometry. Then we go into basic calculus. Then we go into more higher end calculus, and so it's a process, and there's all those in between places I miss because I don't have all the answers on that, but that gives you an idea. You can't just jump into calculus, or you can't even just jump into algebra. You gotta jump first into basic questions and answers. What is 2 + 2? It = 4. Now, that's what a child needs to learn to be educated, to understand, and to grow. Okay, it's the same thing. We have to because we're so used to denying what we really feel, negating it, denying it, being in denial about it. That now we're forced to have to kind of really look at the truth of how we really feel, because we don't have other options right now. And let's take this opportunity to do that, and give yourself permission to have dark moments. I can't say enough about that. You can't hate yourself for going, I'm really feeling dark. And I said, of course you are. It's a dark time. Of course you are. The loved one may die. Of course you are. You might die. So you're gonna. It's like don't negate that you have pain about something. Acknowledge it, embrace it, and then attempt to use it to find some answers, to be able to then find your way to more questions that will help you keep growing. But don't deny your pain.
What do you think we can learn, especially from a mindset perspective? What do you think we can learn as humans from this time? So we've never experienced, especially in my lifetime, potentially in yours as well, Ivana. Is there anything that you think we can actually learn about ourselves, about humanity during this time?
Yes. and no. Basically up to you. Other people it's going to go through all this and know nothing more than they knew before this all began. And then there's people who are going to become greater and more purposeful and creating a dent in the world because of it. So yes and no. It's up to you. It's a choice.
And do you think, like, with that choice, is that a matter of, does that relate to fearing somewhat? If the more sort of afraid you are, potentially, the less likely you are to grow? Or the more afraid you are, the more likely you are to grow?
Well, the more afraid you are and you acknowledge it and embrace it, and that's what it is, and understanding it, the more, and then say, first, you have to have the mourning period. You have to have a time where you embrace it and feel dark and have your drama where I just want to die, da-da-da. But then you give yourself that time, a couple days, a couple hours. I think a couple days is a good amount of time. And then you say, okay, now what can I do to use this very same fear that I come to understand and embrace, and see how I can use it to fuel my ability to overcome and win with it. But first you have to understand it. And first you have to embrace it. It's like your flaws, your fears, your insecurities is what makes you special. It's what makes you unique. If we were all confident, perfect human beings, we wouldn't be very interesting either. So it's part of what makes us mannered and quirky and interesting, is how our fears manifest themselves. If we're using them not to complain about it, but to use them to find a way to fuel our way to overcome and grow with it, then becomes something that people enjoy being around you, because they're saying that you're not sitting in your stuff. I always say to people that there's people in all our lives that like to sit and complain about their lives and how awful everybody is to them and how life is gave them a bad turn. And they complain and they complain and complain. And it's truthful and it's honest, but it's really hard to be around those people because it's a downer. So I always tell people, if you don't want to be around them for free, why would you pay them to see that? So it's up to you to take the very things that everybody has and first embrace it, mourn, go through the process of your darkness, enjoy every bit of it, have your pity party. It's called a party for a reason. It's a pity party, So have your moment, and then now find a way to embrace as a fuel to overcome and attempt to win with it.
How are you coping with this? So how's your life sort of changing? How are you feeling with this thing that's sort of going on?
Well, I kind of already talked about that. I kind of wake up, and sometimes it's at night, sometimes in the middle of the day where I feel really dark thoughts, and then I start to think in terms of, what do I need to do to help so-and-so who's going through a really dark time, using their work to do that. Because I have online classes, I teach trainees, and we're here to learn how to teach for the Japanese schools, and then also for Denmark. But what happens, they had to go back home, so I'm doing online stuff. So I'm teaching them how to empower people with their pain. First, how to do it themselves, and how to do it, how to teach it. So it's like it's all finding its way to creating kind of like the wheel, the circle of life here. So I feel down. I'm finding my way to pick myself up by teaching, because teaching is what I was meant to be doing. Acting is what I came to LA to do. I found that teaching made me feel so much happier and inspired, and gave me adrenaline, like natural speed. Because I found that when I was on a set working as an actor, time would go by really slow. Whenever I worked with people to teach them, I always found time went really fast. And so I always go by the time helps me figure out what it is that my purpose was. The things that really inspire me the time goes by so fast. I go, whoa, I didn't realize 3 hours went by. So I take my darkness, I sit in it, I embrace it, I have drama with it, and then I go ahead and do what I feel like I was put on this planet to do. But I figured that out through a lot of, answers and questions, questions and answers, and I'm still trying to figure out what's next, in terms of what I need to do on this planet, because I feel like there's more, and I don't know what that is yet. So that's what I'm trying to figure out through all this, is what my journey is next, because I think this time has been with a lot of fear, but it also, like when people, as I see people's faces online, the Zoom, the wonderful thing called Zoom, like everybody's on Zoom these days. It's the one company that's not going bust is they're thriving in this, is that I see people's faces when I talk to them, and I see them like they're crying, but with joy of answers, joys of revelation. It's not tears, it's like tears that start from their pain that have become catharsis.
So when we're looking at questions and answers and experiences, you've worked with some of the most illustrious, sort of well-known people in the world, whether it's Brad Pitt, Jim Carrey, Charlize Theron, Halle Berry. Is there something that those people taught you, where you were taught of in the interaction with them?
Oh, every single time. There's always something to be learned. I learn more from my students, and I think they learn from me. That's how I feel about it. I feel like the student is a teacher, the teacher is the student. It sounds very Chinese, but I feel that way. I believe that the more I learn, the better teacher I am. And so I have revelations every time I teach. Every time I teach, I go, oh, that's why my mother did that. Or, oh, that's why I said those awful things to that person, which I didn't understand why I did. Or this is a revelation about this kind of person. This is why a murderer does what they do. There's so many aha moments. I have a great job because I'm constantly learning from my students. Not because they're trying to educate me, but it's a give and take. It is a dialogue. I don't say, do this. This is what we're going to do together as a team. We work this out together as a team. I just happen to have a language. It's a 12-step technique of the Chubbuck technique. It's a language that I can utilize as our lexicon. But the point is, I ask a lot of questions, and they tell me their answers, and I just like whatever they say. I go, oh, okay. This is why I found out today, for example, I was talking to someone from Japan. I found out that for the first time, and I've worked with him a bunch, that his mother used to tell him she wanted to kill him and then herself. And it's like, why did this come up? Why did it take so long for this to come up? No wonder you're so afraid, because he's so afraid that he can't be proactive in his work. He's afraid he's going to instigate horror. And I said, well, you're not. You've got to stop being so afraid that someone's going to freak out. And then I found this out today, and I'm going, oh, that's why. Of course, a little boy who didn't understand that his mother was making him wonder, is he going to die? Is she going to die? Are we both going to die? How do you put that information with a kid without instilling an adult person going, I'm terrified of pushing people's buttons, so I'm going to behave in this way with total terror. And I said, as long as you keep doing it, you're letting her keep winning. Take her voice off your shoulder, and I want you to do is say, if she's not there, she's not in front of you, this is your fantasy. What to do is like say, screw you, Mom. I'm not going to let your voice touch me anymore. If she's not there, she's not going to blow up. She's not going to freak out, because it's the art. The beauty of the art of it is that it's your fantasy world coming true. All the things you couldn't do, and people you wanted to kill, you can't really kill. People you want to have sex with, you can't have sex with for whatever reasons. You can do that in your fantasy world, So it's like it's a beautiful thing to be able to overcome with your stuff in your fantasy world that allows you to then grow and prosper in your real world, because it does bleed into your real world.
No, brilliant. I love that perspective, as you are always asking those questions, but you're learning from, I guess, every interaction that you have, whether it's your students, whether the person that you meet in the street, whatever it sort of might be, as long as you are actually in that moment, you're going to be able to learn more and more and more things, and then utilize those things maybe later down in your own journey.
It was interesting. I'm gonna tell you, my first time, asking questions of people make people feel that you give a shit about what their answers are. Talking ad nauseum about yourself turns people off. So it makes people want to communicate with you. It makes people want to hire you. It makes people want to be your lover. It makes people want to do things if you ask questions, because you really want to know the answers, and then you ask questions of the answers. And I remember going to a party with when I first came out here, and there was a bunch of very famous people. Famous people in terms of famous writers, producers, actors. And I was like young, and I was just like, I said, I'm going to do an experiment here. I'm just going to ask a lot of questions. I'm not going to talk about myself at all. I'm just going to ask a lot of questions about them. The kinds of questions that elicit longer answers, not yes and no's or short answers. So I did that. And remember, this is like, I was the person when they first met me, like, who the heck is this person? Who cares about her? Was a newbie in town, but what I did exactly that. So my friend who took me there, who was a very famous showrunner, producer of some very famous movies and TV shows, he said, what were you talking about last night? Because everybody was talking about how much they loved you. You made such a smash, a connection with everybody. What were you doing? What were you talking about? And I said, I just asked a lot of questions.
I guess that and people generally like talking about themselves. So you ask the right questions, they'll sit there for a long time talking about themselves.
And then the thing is like to be open about it. Also, is cathartic to feel like when I always talk about my stuff too, and I say, oh, that reminds me of blah, 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 to do with me, or my relationship with my mother, or I feel like you have the same mother as I have. All of a sudden, we have this connection, which I call the commonality of kin. It's like what we do is we're connecting then, we're creating a true emotional romance over the fact that I cared about your answers. Your answers elicited something in me that had a similar kind of experience or feeling, and then I asked questions about that were very specific, and it's like kind of give and take kind of thing that happens, that creates all relationships, friendships, lover relationships, strong business relationships, being able to sell to people if you're a salesperson, and.
Who do you think your biggest inspiration was? Like, you've got a very, very incredible outlook on life in general. Who do you think your biggest inspiration was in your own life? And what's the biggest thing they've taught you?
Well, my father is my biggest inspiration because he was a Holocaust survivor. And as a Holocaust survivor, he determined when he came out to the States with his family. He was only 12 or something at the time. But he couldn't do anything about the fact that a lot of his relatives were brought to the camps and killed. He couldn't do anything when the brown shirts and the Nazis, because he was blonde and blue-eyed, when the Nazis come up to thinking he was one of their own and saying how they wanted to kill his brothers who were very Semitic-looking. And he couldn't say anything, he couldn't do anything. So when he was able to become an adult, what he became was a lawyer to help unions. Are you frozen on me?
No, I'm still here.
I think you're frozen on me.
I can still hear you.
You unfroze. I don't know if you heard. Okay, so did you hear what did you hear? You froze on me.
We got all of it. So everything. I'm good with everything at this point.
Okay. So there was more to that story. So when he became an adult, he went to law school and became a lawyer for civil rights. He became a lawyer for labor unions, to create labor unions. He became a lawyer for people that couldn't afford to have their own cases. He couldn't do what he was a kid to save people. He did as an adult, and so he is I'm doing in the arts what he did as a lawyer.
No, that's brilliant. I love that. I love that. And Ivana, if we just throughout our whole conversation, if there's 2 to 3 big takeaway points that you think people can implement today just to improve their lives in general, what would you think they would be?
Don't be afraid of your fear. embrace it, understand it, mourn it, and then attempt to use it to, in spite of and because of, to accomplish whatever it is that you need to accomplish.
Beautiful. Brilliant. And I want to be really respectful of your time and obviously the time that you've given me today. But what's next for you? What are you working on at the moment? What does 2020, obviously after this whole craziness, have in store for you?
Well, I think that I think one of the best things about like the program, AA program, is one day at a time. Let me figure out what I'm going to do today and what I need to accomplish today, because if I start thinking in terms of the future and I don't meet that goal, then I'm going to be disappointed. So take it one day at a time. It's the best thing to do. Like I used to go with my girlfriend to OA, which is Overeaters Anonymous, and I never went to a meeting for myself. But boy, did I get a lot out of that. Because one day at a time, once I did that, I stopped being so neurotic. I stopped being so absurdly fearful, because the future is a scary thing. Before the pandemic, the future is so scary. And then the future is really scary during a pandemic. So one day at a time, let me do what I need to accomplish today. And then tomorrow will be tomorrow's deeds. And how that's going to find its way to wherever I am. I'm always wonderfully surprised at where my life takes me. Who knew that I have a school that's opening up in China, because they're way ahead of us. They're now finding the space. They built the website. This whole thing happening. The first site is going to be in Shanghai. And it's all happening. I didn't say make this happen. It's all happening it's happening because I put out, I need to empower the world through the arts. I want it to find its way, however it's going to find its way. So whatever people plan how exactly it's supposed to happen, they will be disappointed. Put out there what you want. Again, embrace the things that screw you up. Know that that's what makes you special and that's what makes you human. And then see how life is going to find its way. It's a beautiful thing. The ups and downs make it a roller coaster ride. And a roller coaster ride is always fun. There'll be downs, but then there's ups and the downs.
I love that. I love that analogy. Actually, I've never thought about it like that. Like that roller coaster rides are always fun, especially when you first get on one. If you've never been on it before, it's part of the excitement. You're like, holy shit, what's going to happen next? And you take this turn, and then you're up and down and fast and slow. I love that.
I've been on it 10 times. It's the same feeling.
Yeah,
it's the same feeling. There's a beauty. That's why people go on the same ride over and over and over again. Because just because you know that this might be a fall here, it's still fun.
Yeah.
It's part of life. Life is going to have hills and valleys. It's going to have the whole thing. See it as it's going to give you all of it. But just let life happen.
Brilliant. And lastly, where can people find you? Where's the best place to reach out, ask questions, see what you're doing?
My social media, you go on to my Facebook, which is official Ivana Chubbuck. My Instagram is at Ivana Chubbuck. And what else? My website is IvanaChubbuck.com.
Perfect. And Ivana, I just want to lastly say thank you again for spending this time with me. I know people would have got a hell of a lot of value out of it. And I'm really, really grateful for your time.
Well, thank you for asking really good questions at this time when everybody needs those answers. And again, what you did was make me think what I need to think about next. It's like, okay, what's next? Because I just talk a lot, but I need to also go okay, this is going to help me make sense of the next drama, which is what am I going to eat tonight?
Which is always a drama.
How am I going to keep from getting the virus from whatever gets delivered at my door? Life is very interesting that way.
It is.
Little things and big things, right?
That's it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. I know you'll enjoy, and please reach out to Ivana. All her details will be in the link below.